Welcome everyone. This series of lectures is for the postgraduate students of English language and literature. And in this series of lectures, we are looking at the Republic of Plato. There will be 4 videos in this series. In the introductory video lecture, we will be looking at the biographical details of the Greek philosopher and scholar Plato. We will also be looking at book 1 of the Republic. In video number 2, we shall be discussing book 2 of the Republic. As we know, the Republic has 10 books, and the book 2 and book 3 are for the detailed study of the postgraduate students of MA English in University of Calicut. And book 2 and 3 will be discussed in detail, and video lecture 2 will be on book 2 of the Republic. Video lecture 3 will be on book 3, and video lecture 4 will be discussing books 4 to 10 of the Republic by Plato. Now let's just have a look at the biographical details of this great thinker and philosopher Plato. Plato was born approximately in 428 or 427 BC in Athens in Greece, and he is believed to have died in the year 348 or 347 in Athens, and he was an ancient Greek philosopher, student of Socrates, teacher of Aristotle, and founder of the academy. Plato is best known as the father of philosophical works of unparalleled influence. Building on the demonstration by Socrates that those regarded as experts in ethical matters did not have the understanding necessary for a good human life, Plato introduced the idea that their mistakes were due to their not engaging properly with a class of entities he called forms, chief examples of which were justice, beauty, and equality. Whereas other thinkers and Plato himself in certain passages used the term without any precise technical force, Plato in the course of his career came to devote specialized attention to these entities, justice, beauty, and equality. As he conceived them, they were accessible not to the senses but to the mind alone, and they were the most important constituents of reality underlying the existence of the sensible world and giving it what intelligibility it has. In metaphysics, Plato envisioned a systematic, rational treatment of the forms and their interrelations, starting with the most fundamental among them, the good, or the one. In ethics and moral psychology, he developed the view that the good life requires not just a certain kind of knowledge, as Socrates had suggested, but also habitation to healthy emotional responses, and therefore harmony between the 3 parts of the soul, according to Plato: reason, spirit, and appetite. His works also contain discussions in aesthetics, political philosophy, theology, cosmology, epistemology, and the philosophy of language. His school fostered research not just in philosophy, narrowly conceived, but in a wide range of endeavors that today would be called mathematical or scientific. The following are the best books by Plato: Phaedo, Apology, Crito, Euthyphro, Phaedrus, Symposium, the Republic. The son of Aristotle and Perictione, Plato was born in the year after the death of the great Athenian statesman Pericles. His brothers Glaucon and Adeimantus are portrayed as interlocutors in Plato's masterpiece, The Republic, and his half-brother Antiphon figures in the Parmenides. Plato's family was aristocratic and distinguished. His father's side claimed descent from the god Poseidon, and his mother's side was related to the lawgiver Solon. Less creditably, his mother's close relatives Critias and Charmides were among the 30 tyrants who seized power in Athens and ruled briefly until the restoration of democracy in 403. Plato, as a young man, was a member of the circle around Socrates. Since the latter wrought nothing, what is known of his characteristic activity of engaging his fellow citizens and the occasional itinerant celebrity in conversation derives wholly from the writings of others, most notably Plato himself. The works of Plato, commonly referred to as Socratic, represent the sort of thing the historical Socrates was doing. He would challenge men who supposedly had expertise about some facet of human excellence to give accounts of these matters, variously of courage, piety, and so on, or at times of the whole of virtue, and then typically fail to maintain their position. Resentment against Socrates grew, leading ultimately to his trial and execution on charges of impiety and corrupting the youth in 399. Plato was profoundly affected by both the life and the death of Socrates. The activity of the older man provided the starting point of Plato's philosophizing. Moreover, if Plato's seventh letter is to be believed, its authorship is disputed. The treatment of Socrates by both the oligarchy and the democracy made Plato wary of enduring public life, as someone of his background would normally have done. After the death of Socrates, Plato may have traveled extensively in Greece, Italy, and Egypt, though on such particulars the evidence is uncertain. The followers of Pythagoras seem to have influenced his philosophical program. They are criticized in the Phaedo and the Republic, but receive respectful mention in Philebus. It's thought that his 3 trips to Syracuse in Sicily, many of the letters concern these, though their authenticity is controversial, led to a deep personal attachment to Dion, brother-in-law of Dionysius the Elder, the tyrant of Syracuse. Plato, at Dion's urging, apparently undertook to put into practice the ideal of the philosopher king described in the Republic by educating Dionysius the Younger. The project was not a success, and in the ensuing instability, Dion was murdered by Zazindians. Plato's Academy, founded in 380, was the ultimate ancestor of the modern university, hence the English term academic. An influential center of research and learning, it attracted many men of outstanding ability. The great mathematicians Theaetetus and Eudoxus of Cnides were associated with it. Although Plato was not a research mathematician, he was aware of the results of those who were, and he made use of them in his own work. For 20 years, Aristotle was also a member of the Academy. He started his own school, the Lyceum, only after Plato's death, when he was passed over as Plato's successor at the academy, probably because of his connections to the court of Macedonia. Because Aristotle often discusses issues by contrasting his views with those of his teacher, it is easy to be impressed by the ways in which they diverge. Thus, whereas for Plato the crown of ethics is the good in general, or goodness itself, the good, for Aristotle it is the good for human beings, and whereas for Plato the genus to which a thing belongs possesses a greater reality than the thing itself, for Aristotle the opposite is true. Plato's emphasis on the ideal and Aristotle's on the worldly informs Raphael's, Italian painter Raphael's, depiction of the two philosophers in the school of Athens. But if one considers the two philosophers not just in relation to each other, but in the context of the whole of Western philosophy, it's clear how much Aristotle's program is continuous with that of his teacher. Indeed, the painting may be said to represent this continuity by showing the two men conversing amicably. In any case, the Academy did not impose a dogmatic orthodoxy and in fact seems to have fostered a spirit of independent inquiry. At a later time, it took on a skeptical orientation. Plato once delivered a public lecture on the good, in which he mystified his audience by announcing the good is one. He better gauged his readers in his dialogues, many of which are accessible, entertaining, and inviting. Although Plato is well known for his negative remarks about much great literature, in the Symposium he depicts literature and philosophy as the offspring of lovers who gain a more lasting posterity than do parents of mortal children. His own literary and philosophical gifts ensure that something of Plato will live on for as long as readers engage with his works. The Republic, Politeia in Greek, Res Publica in Latin, is the most popular and most widely taught of Plato's writings. It's a kind of extended conversation that embraces a central argument, an argument that is advanced by the proponent of the argument, Socrates. The Republic may be seen as a kind of debate, a fitting description for most of the Socratic dialogues. Plato was the most celebrated disciple of Socrates. By the time of Plato, the glory of Athenian art and literature was on the wane, and their place was taken over by philosophy and oratory, for which the chief priests were Parmenides, Empedocles, and Socrates. It is Plato's intent in this dialogue to establish philosophically the ideal state, a state that would stand as a model for all emerging and existing societies currently functioning on during Plato's time and extending into our own times. And we are to infer that any proposed changes in the policy of effecting justice in any state would have to meet the criteria of the ideal state, the Republic. The Republic has traditionally been published in 10 books, probably from its having been so divided into 10 books in its manuscript form. The Socratic method of engaging conversations with his fellow citizens has come to be known as the Socratic dialectic or the Socratic method, and its method of pouring a given truth is still adopted by many universities, public schools, and teachers to the present day. It's the method that Plato adopted for the Republic and for all of his dialogues. Socrates conversed with the young men of Athens, young men who were apparently disenchanted with their teachers whom their parents had hired and who apparently did not know as much as Socrates knew. As in all of Platonic dialogues, the participants in the debate are friends or acquaintances of the central speaker, Socrates, and they conduct their conversation in the house of one of the participants. The dialogue in the Republic takes place in Cephalus' house. Cephalus is an older man, a wealthy and retired merchant. He has assembled several friends and acquaintances in his house on a feast day in honor of the Thracian goddess Bendis, the Greek mythological goddess Artemis, goddess of the moon. Some of the guests simply audit the debate and remain silent. Some are very minor participants in the dialogue. The main speakers in the Republic are Socrates, the persona of Plato, as in all the dialogues, Cephalus, Polemarchus, Cephalus' son, Thrasymachus, a teacher of argument, Glaucon, Adeimantus. Glaucon and Adeimantus are Plato's elder brothers. As I told in the beginning, the Republic has 10 books, and we are discussing all the 10 books of the Republic in detail. In this lecture, let us just look at the content of Book 1. Book 1 of the Republic by Plato opens with his teacher Socrates returning home, accompanied by one of Plato's brothers, Glaucon. Along the way, the three men meet Adeimantus, another brother of Plato. A young nobleman named Polemarchus invites the party to his home. He wants his father Cephalus to meet the great scholar Socrates. Socrates and Cephalus have a lengthy discussion on the merits of old age. Along the way, the discussion turns to justice. As a member of the established Greek government, Cephalus, an established businessman, offers his opinion. Justice requires honesty and following the laws with no exceptions. Socrates is renowned for his ability to argue any point from any direction. So he brings up an example of a counter-argument. Suppose a madman had his weapon confiscated. According to Cephalus' interpretation, they would have to return the weapon. With no further way to take this argument, Cephalus leaves to oversee some sacrifices. His son, Polemarchus, takes over the argument. He is an ambitious young politician, and his contention is that justice is to use for your friends and against your enemies. Socrates argues back by bringing up that we are not always friends with men of high morality, and sometimes our enemies have a good deal of morality. With this argument, Socrates has pointed out the harmful tendency to use justice as the weapon. The next person to enter into the argument is Thrasymachus, the sophist or teacher of virtue. His idea is to do away with laws and morality. He angrily states that justice is the strong dominating the weak. Acting justly only helps other people, never yourself. He thinks that justice is an unnatural action for people. It curtails our natural desires and therefore should be abolished. This changes the argument. Not only must justice be defined, but it must also be proven to be worthwhile. Socrates gives 3 points of argument. First, Thrasymachus must admit that he is promoting injustice as a virtue. From his viewpoint, life is a continual competition to get more money, more power, etc. Then, whoever acquires the most power is the most virtuous. That couldn't be true because it is contrary to wisdom, and wisdom is a virtue. Secondly, Socrates points out that if he wants the world to become more virtuous, they need to follow a certain set of rules. Lastly, he argues that a just man is happy and an unjust man wretched. Therefore, injustice is never more profitable than justice. In the end of Book 1, the group is no closer to a true definition of justice, and the importance of justice has been weakly argued. But they all agree that they need to come up with some answers if they are to defend justice to the sophists. So long as I do not know what the just is, Socrates says, I shall hardly know whether it is a virtue or not, and whether the one who has it is happy or unhappy. So, in short, we understand that although we have almost 3 definitions of justice in Book 1, they do not come to a conclusion regarding the definition of justice. With this bewildering situation, Book 1 comes to an end, and in Book 2 we will see the continuation of the discussion on what is justice. So with this we end the first video lecture on the Republic of Plato, and in the next video we will be looking in detail on Book 2 of the Republic by Plato, and Book 2 and 3 are detailed for the postgraduate students of the colleges of University of Calicut, and we will be discussing Book 2 and 3 in very detail, and possible questions and general topics and themes will be discussed in the following 2 videos. Thanks a lot for listening. May God bless you all.